Hey, this is Zach from Citizens and Saints. Our new album, Amir Dimly, is out, and we cannot wait to play these songs for you live. We'll be traveling with our friends King's Kaleidoscope, who also just put out a new record, Beyond Control, along with special guests, the Sing Team, for the Live Love Tour. Starting October 14th, we'll be in Des Moines, Iowa, and then traveling through the Midwestern parts of the states. We'll end on October 19th in Columbus, Ohio. For more details or to get your tickets today, go to livelovedtour.com.
Break it down, Dada.
Break it down, oh, break it down. Break it down, oh, break it down. Break it down, oh, break it down. Break it down, oh, break
Check.
it down.
Let's make color.
Yeah.
Welcome, Downers. Welcome to the show. I am happy to be here, lucky to be here, and I don't mean this arrogantly, but you're lucky I'm here too. I just had a baby a few days ago, and I was planning on missing a week, but I'm not. I'm here, and I'm here with a really good friend of mine who I knew, I've always known, would be a ringer to have on a podcast. Somebody that would be great, somebody that would be fun, and somebody that would help me out in a time when I knew I would be tired and sleepy and maybe not able to carry the conversation. I have a good friend of mine, Phil Sneed. Phil from Story of the Year. Phil from the Risotto Show. Did I say that right? Risotto Show.
Yeah, risotto is like a cheese or something.
Yes, sorry about that. I bet he gets that a lot. Phil is from St. Louis, Story of the Year, one of my favorite bands ever to know, listen to, and go on tour with. Phil, thank you for being here this evening.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I've been listening to all your stuff. You know, we talked a couple months ago and was catching up. I heard you were doing the podcast and the radio, and if you need a dude to just talk to about being the most tired dude on earth, I'm your man. I'm your man.
There's a lot of reasons you're tired. For one thing, you got a shitload of kids too. So first of all, I know you get that really, really well. How many kids do you have?
Well, the funny thing is, on our radio show, on the morning show, it's such a joke that I have so many kids that we change the number all the time. Okay. So if I say the real number now, the joke is totally gone.
It's a lot.
The J is O.
Yeah,
it's a lot. I could field an indoor soccer team at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Were you guys basketball fans out there? No, I guess you used to have the Sonics
we used to
or something.
Be out here, yeah. We're not.
Yeah, well, I could field a basketball team. But yeah, my oldest is 18, dude. How insane is that?
That is insane. I'm really a late bloomer on this, as I am with a lot of things. But I just had my second daughter, so I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-day-old right now. So I'm getting started late, even though you and I are the same age, do the same profession. And interestingly, not only our primary profession, guitarist, musician, that kind of thing, but our secondary thing is broadcast, it seems like, which is the real reason you are very familiar with being tired. But you get up and do morning radio at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I get up at 3:30. Not only is Story of the Year a focus, I'm in 4 bands. So I do 4 bands. I'm the front man for another band called Greek Fire that's been doing a lot of stuff and full time for the last couple of years. And I'm in a band called Goldfinger with John Feldman and Mike from MXPX.
Yeah.
And then I have like a full-blown like 90s tribute band thing here in St. Louis for like these big. Well, it's actually connected to the radio show, and I do like a lot of radio events and all that. But that takes time too, man. And then when you got, a soccer team of kids, I don't sleep, dude.
That's crazy. And it's not just that. It's not just that you have a lot to do, but it's so conflicting, the types of hours, especially with the radio show being the really oddball thing. But the travel involved with those things, like doing the shows with John Feldman and Goldfinger and flyouts and, band stuff is it's hard to complain about it because it's a really good gig being in a band and doing that kind of thing. But it is really late at night when you are a daytime person or an adult man. The nighttime thing can be really late. Like going on stage, sometimes you look at the day sheet and it says we're going on at 10:50, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not what I'm looking for there. Or on the other hand, if you are doing a 6-week tour, then yeah, it doesn't matter. You get on a whole different routine kind of thing. But even with that, going back and forth and the flights, you can't. There's no telling how many times you have a 10:30 set time and a 6 a.m. flight, and there's nothing you can do about it. And if you go international, you're done for. I mean, you're done for 2 weeks, and international tours typically last about 2 weeks, and you're done for the whole time. So you're no stranger to it.
No, and thankfully, with all the touring, 15 years worth of touring and figuring out how to fall asleep in trains and sitting up in vans in Europe and airports underneath the chairs and that kind of stuff. That ability to be able to fall asleep anywhere and try to get the maximum amount of rest has really come in handy. But man, it's a matter of priorities these days. Obviously, family and kids comes first, and even the jobs and the bands. Like sometimes those take priority here and there because I got to pay for the family.
Yeah,
I got to make a living for the family and all that. And what honestly I've had to sacrifice more than anything is probably my status as a friend or whatever, because a lot of times, you and I, we don't live in LA, we don't live in New York, and when all of our friends come through and all that kind of stuff, you want to see them, you want to hang out, you want to take them to dinner, you at least to support them and go to the show. And this just happened 2 nights ago. Some newer friends of mine in a band called Saint Motel, that's a badass band, on the way up or whatever, they were texting me like, hey, you got to come to the show, and I had been planning on it, but it was Monday, and I said, when do you guys hit stage? And just like you said, they said, oh, we hit the stage at 10 p.m. I said, no fucking way.
No, can't do
Past my bedtime, dude. I'm such an adult to say that, but you just have to cut it off somewhere and just.
Yeah. And especially in this lifestyle, like, not only that's like touring people and still industry stuff. How far off is it to like do vacations or poker nights or golf trips or even play golf in the morning, which I love to play golf, but it's just not on my list. And I can't justify going to play golf for 4 hours because I get to have fun. I get to go to summer camp, I get to go on tour. I get to do the thing that is really fun for my job. But when it comes to like, hey babe, I'm going on a golf trip, that's not in the cards for me. If I was had a regular job, maybe it would be. But since my job's so fun, I don't have poker night with the guys locally either. Usually, yeah,
that stuff's out the window. Thankfully, I strategically picked the sport that takes the least amount of time. I'm a soccer guy, so I'm out for 90 minutes and then I run back home. If I did golf, like the 4-hour thing, that's tough to justify. But dude, at the same time, man, when you have the time, sometimes you got to prioritize your leisure or your sport or whatever it is that you're into for like, and I know this sounds kind of like a modern day cop out, but for the mental health and for your spirit and the refreshment, the refinement of it, to have some alone time or to do something that you're not doing selfishly, but for the benefit of your soul and of your person, because otherwise you're going to be a shitty person and you're going to be a not good person for the people around you.
Yep.
If you're just doing things, even though our jobs are the coolest things ever, but every job is a job, and at some point it has its drawbacks. At some point, it may take away from you in a little bit. So you do got to give yourself that time. Maybe not 4.5 hours to do stupid old golf, but no, I'm just kidding.
But what is it? What is the deal with like really getting up at 3:30? Is that what time you get up 3:30 and go down to the station to do your radio?
I just set my alarm. Tomorrow is going to be here. I'll show you this. Tomorrow's going to be a late day for me because I'm going to shower tonight, and that's what's that say? 3:55 and 4:07, and I'm going to be busting ass to get to work. Like I'm planning on speeding tomorrow and praying off the tickets.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
And so do you ever do you get used to that, or is it just always painful?
No, you're not supposed to get used to that. But we aren't built for this shit. Like you're not supposed to not see this. You're not supposed to be in a radio station in a box without sunlight. And the first time you see the sun is at 12:30 in the afternoon and you've been up since 3:30. That's not right.
Not right.
It ain't good. No, I've been reading all sorts of different things about like the science of naps and what length of a nap is bad for you and what length of a nap is good for you. And you really got to you kind of have to understand those sciences because, I'm sure everybody can relate to the nap that you wake up and you feel more tired than you did. Mm-hmm. It's silly as it sounds and as adult and un-rock and roll as this entire conversation has been so far.
We're going to get there. I just want to get this out of the way first.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm totally honest and totally upfront about it because a lot of the radio station fans and the radio show is huge and my bands have always traditionally done extremely well in St. Louis. So people are always like, dude, not only are you on your show, you got to remember, like with terrestrial radio and what we do on radio, the only way I can make a living doing it is doing advertisements and what's called remotes. Like we go out to our clients, the people that we're partners with, and we do remotes, we do events. That's how radio folks make their money. So I'm not just doing 3:30 to noon. I'm doing 7 to 9 at this club and 8 to 10 at this cell phone store, and that kind of stuff. So it's crazy hours, and it's not easy, dude. It's just if I didn't have this, I don't have a Riva. I need a Riva.
You need an assistant. You do, for sure.
Yeah. Instead, I have this, the reminders on my iPhone. If I didn't have that, I would be a total mess.
Mm-hmm.
Total mess.
Yeah.
Total mess.
No, yeah, I'm not good at doing anything typing, so I use a human for my note taking typically. In fact, I do speech to text almost all the time. I don't even like to use my thumbs or type or anything. I'm just not. It just doesn't really work for me. I talk on the phone all day, every day, and then I speak into my text messaging and emails and all my different Slack channels. So it gets a bunch of funny typos, but people figure it out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I heard you talking to Brandon the other day about like quick emails, and that's how I am. And people think I'm a total asshole. But I need efficiency in my life. I just don't have time. And I like hanging with my friends and having beers as much as the next guy. And I keep that circle very, very small. But for everybody else, like if I don't have time, I don't have time. And I'm not pushing people off. I just like being direct. You and me with our I think your philosophy and your intellect and everything that you do for a living and all that. I think if we lived in the same cities, we'd be best buds, man.
Of course. I mean, and that's the thing that really, when I I started thinking about what to talk to Phil about tonight. I said, man, this is like, it's so easy. And I don't think you know this because we don't keep in touch. That's not something. That's what I want to do tonight is just catch up and. We played a festival together a few months ago. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how much I love this guy. I forgot how easy it is to talk to him. These guys are the best. But I want you to know this.
Thanks.
You know how you get the question all the time when you're out there, people, you have a question. Anybody has a question. It's always, who's your favorite band to tour with? Tell us the crazy stuff or whatever. And there's only really two answers we give to that. One is there's a Canadian band, Boys Night Out, that we just love and had a great time with on a few tours. And then other than that, the default story that Emery ever tells about touring is touring with Story of the Year in Australia with Flogging Molly. And Flogging Molly gets a good bit of attention in that story. But you guys too, that's our default. Like that was the coolest thing that our band has ever done. And it's for so many reasons that we could talk about for the rest of the podcast. But I don't know if you know that, but that's just it. I mean, that was the coolest thing that we have ever done. So I want to take a little bit of time and try to explain to people why that is, because I know that's one of the most common questions people ask me all the time. So I can formally answer it here on the podcast, but it really pertains to your success and how big your band is, partly because those are first of all, the biggest shows we've ever played anywhere. It was just incredible. We played, you remember it, don't you? It was 5,000 people in a room. Like not an amphitheater or some big festival, club booking, you guys headlining, Flogging Molly before that, us before that, 5,000 people in Sydney.
Yeah, that was rad.
It's just mind-blowing. This is something, you think you're going to be in this band and you'll be successful and you'll get to play for a big crowd one day. That I was not prepared for what that felt like and looked like from that moment, like walking out there and doing that. It's just something that I had no category for it or expectation that was possible. I didn't have nothing for that. It was just too much, man.
Yeah, that was pretty special, man. I mean, and I didn't know that on your end of things. We've seen Josh a bit, and like you said, we haven't been able to see each other too much until a couple months ago. But you guys, we tour with 1,000 bands, and there's, like you said, there's maybe only a handful that the memories go with the time period, go with the people that you know that if you saw them, even though it had been 10 years, it takes 30 seconds. You're like, I fucking love this dude. Yep. Like I love this dude. It's such a shame we don't live in the same city because 10 years of a gap and you still feel like bam, we're back on tour, and this is camaraderie at its best, and like-mindedness, and these people understand me, and I feel like, you know, I understand them. And that tour's on our DVD a whole bunch, because while you guys were playing in Sydney, we were underneath the stage throwing bread at the crowd in the front row. Like we were doing a lot of fun, just goofy crap, and you guys were totally down with that, and all your personalities were. That was such a rad tour.
Well,
unforgettable.
It's weird because you'd think everybody's cool in bands. It's always, oh, sweet. You know, it's such a cliche. You say, how's the tour? Oh, sweet dudes. And they are. And you do get along with anybody you spend multiple weeks with in close proximity, or on airplanes every day, or hotels, or tour buses, green rooms, whatever it is. You do get a camaraderie with almost every band, but there's some people it's just different. And I know everybody has that list and everything, but it's hard to put the finger on what it is. I'm going to try to do that, though. I do want to try to do that. So there's a bunch of factors that go there. So if you're a guys in a band and you're a little bit older, that's one thing. If you are guys that like music, but you also dig sports and dude stuff, that helps too. And if you're dudes that are married and family men, and you're not really there about the chick hookup as the primary thing, or drug use, both of those things are, you know, maybe reasonable in themselves, possibly in moderation or something. But anybody that's about that, those things tend to be, you know, less good hangs for us sometimes. And you guys are just right in the pocket for us of just guys like us. I don't know what it is, but really something there.
No, dude, I think you're exactly right. And like you said, there was a lot of we were all married at the time. I was a dad by then. None of the other guys were, but I don't think any of your guys were either. But you guys are all like family dudes, like cut from the cloth to a certain degree. My dudes aren't necessarily like that, but I came from the Christian scene and played Cornerstone.
But it's not Christian. Now, let me try to delineate even further there, because it's not Christian. Because here's what I can't stand touring with squeaky clean people. That's not fun at all.
Yeah.
And you guys are not that. You guys
not
are
that
fun.
at all. Yeah, all the other guys, for the most part, are atheists or whatever. And that's not the background that the band came from. But that Midwestern sort of family, like a couple of the dudes are married to high school sweethearts. Like we were not there for chicks. Nobody ever cheated or did any weird things or any of that kind of, like, it wasn't even on our mind. It wasn't even something we had to say no to, because we just never were in the position or put ourselves in the position for that. Nobody was doing like drugs. Not even our like crew was doing excessive stuff. I hadn't even taken a drink yet of booze until I was like 26 or 27, which was well after 2006. I guess a couple years after 2006, during that first Australia tour. So it's like we were partying, but we were partying in the same way. You know what I mean? Both of our bands, like all these bands party, but there's so many different ways to party in that spectrum.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways, and I'm big on drinking on tour. I mean, it's my favorite thing to do.
I am too now,
for sure. But it's but it's different. I don't know. There's a lot to that. But the thing is, it's not squeaky clean, because that's really annoying. So I don't care. I don't like to make a big deal about language, although people do with our podcast and Bad Christian Podcast and all that. I like that you guys are just, you know, it's like, what's up, motherfuckers? Like, let's have fun. That's the, you need that attitude. We're going to drink some beers. We're going to do this. And Flogging Molly's exactly the same way. They were unbelievable. And you guys took care of us so good too. Like we were small, we were lucky to be there, and you guys could sell 5,000 tickets, and it was that's just the best thing in the world. And so let's talk about this a little bit.
That's good to hear, firstly, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, and I mean that. I really mean that, because it's, I don't know, it transcends something when you're good. Anyway, I'm not trying to just flatter you or anything like that, but I do want to talk about something. I am curious about something here. And you guys come, like, when we're on tour, we are having fun. We are partying, and we're in these green rooms, and it's wild, and it's dirty, and it's messy, and it's dude stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think you got all the right adjectives there.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about it this way, and it's a lot more dirty or even vulgar than this podcast or the Bad Christian Podcast or anything. It is. It really is. But here's what I've been thinking about this week. And I'm not trying to trap you into anything, but
trap me. I'll get out. Let's do this.
But I was thinking about it, because one of my friends in As Cities Burn, Aaron Lunsford, was tweeting about it, and he's like, given all the green room and dirty stuff I've ever thought and heard, how can I fit that into the Trump thing with the locker room talk? I'm gonna equate locker room talk and green room talk because it's very dirty.
Yeah,
Is
same
it the
vibe.
same
It's
thing?
same vibe.
And I've
Just rock and roll to Jack.
Right. It's this very same thing, and I've seen I've heard a million sex stories. I've heard a million dirty jokes. I've heard language, off the charts. But I'm thinking to myself, really, I don't think I've ever heard anybody saying the type of stuff that Trump was saying. The language, yes, and detailed graphic stories, yes, but not in that way of using your power. And I have heard rumors of that stuff, and I'm wondering, is that just me? But what is your experience with that? And have you, because you guys have toured on such a bigger level than us with much more powerful bands and farther and larger by many times over than Emery ever has. But what's your take on that? Have you heard, how does that sit with you, the way the Trump stuff is locker room talk versus green room talk versus have you encountered bands and powerful people talking that way about, to that degree?
Yeah, I'll try to answer that as concisely as possible. I usually don't like to get political or any of that kind of stuff, but on
it's
our
not
show,
this is, I don't mean that political. I don't care about who you support or nothing like that.
No, totally. And I think you and I totally vibe, like eye to eye with everything that I've heard from the podcast. But this question was posed to me in a similar way on the Rizzuto show, on the morning show, and it was the first that I'd heard of it. And I saw a transcript of it first, and then he played the audio. Rizzuto played the audio, and was like, and he called me out and was like, what do you think this isn't this just locker room talk like he says? Like, tell me you haven't been on tour, because I'm the only touring musician guy on this show. And he's like, tell me you haven't been on tour and you haven't heard things like this, blah blah blah. And I was like, and it was my first take, and I had to sort of sort it out. But when I heard him say what he said and read it a couple times, there is a line, and I think where it comes down to is a matter of class. Now, there's a few different variables that go into this. One, I've heard some dirty jokes. I've heard people say, "Man, what I wouldn't give to be with that girl, or I would love to do this, or I would love to do that."
And you've heard some probably really graphic stuff that did happen, just retold.
Yeah. Sure,
even bragging, but that's still not quite where we're at, right?
Some gnarly stuff. Here's the difference. Somebody tells me some gnarly bragging story about some sexual experience or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's locker room talk.
Yeah.
Somebody tells me some gnarly story about sexual assault, which is it is what he described in it. Mm-hmm. That, if I heard that in locker room talk, I would no longer be a part of the locker room.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I just would, sure, I've heard that stuff, and I haven't spoken to those people again. Mm-hmm. Those aren't people. That's a classless act. That's a classless move to say. It's a classless move to say to somebody, especially that you don't know. It's a classless move to think, much less do, much less admit, or any of that kind of stuff. And there's absolutely a line, and it's all about class. And even the classiest of people are going to have the human moments where they're just dude talking and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not excusing every bit of locker room talk or tour talk or any of that kind of stuff. But dude, there's a difference when you're talking about sexual assault. You're talking about hitting on married women while you're married.
Right. I
hate cheaters with a mother effing passion, dude. I hate that. I hate betrayal. I don't like people making promises and vows to somebody and breaking those in such a dramatically devastating fashion to the other person's soul, security, being. That's a tragic thing that can and should be avoided. And when you're out there bragging about it in a sentence that contains an admittance of sexual assault, sorry, you can't hide behind the locker room thing anymore. That's total bullshit.
Like, it took me a little bit of time to get that. At first, I'm like, well, he's a powerful person. Powerful people are crazy. They all do that. And honestly, people at that level, there's probably, here's the sad part. I don't think that's isolated. I think a lot of people with that much power, maybe rightly so, Bill Clinton, JFK, other people, they're probably similar. They really may be, for all I know. But that is so different. And it took me a little bit to really get my head around it. And because at first I'm like, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. And then I thought about it. I'm like, wait, I've heard some of the dirtiest shit ever. And it wasn't that intent behind it, that thought process, that manipulative, that forceful, that part wasn't there. I'm just thinking, oh, the language doesn't bother me. And it doesn't.
No.
Like, it's not about saying pussy. I don't care about the language.
Yeah, no.
I don't care.
You can say
I
that
tried
all
to
day.
fuck this girl that she wanted. That's, it's not the language part of it is my point. It's the
yeah.
you know, and it actually took me a few beats to separate that and realize, wait a minute, I've never even, I mean, I have heard some rumors of bands before doing crazy stuff that sounded way over the line, but I've never experienced it directly. And I've been in a million green rooms with dudes who I think are pretty shitty.
Yeah, no, dude, I have, man, and it's content. It's not words and all that kind of stuff. It's the meaning behind the content. And when you talk about, when you're bragging about sexual assault, you can get the hell out of my face and get out of my life. Like I'm so, dude, it just, nothing sickens me more than people taking advantage of their situation and sexually assaulting somebody.
Yeah.
Or any of that. That is like,
it's hard though. Isn't it? Because I mean, band dudes have power and girls are around,
course,
and
yeah.
they do utilize. I mean, you've seen that, right? Like,
of course, but dude, put yourself in that situation. You have some class. You have a daughter. You respect women. You have a mother. You think about these things. Whatever. Listen, you said something about these people in power. Yeah, of course they're all the same, and they're all the same as you, and they're all the same as me. And I know that you've had diehard fans that have come up and wanted to take a picture and were shaking when they were taking a picture with you. And did you ever once think about groping them? Hell no, Matt, because you got some class, dude. Like, give me a break.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, when I've been single on the road or I've seen other people, they have been powerful. And these guys in this band, after being on stage, and it is a lot easier for them with that power and being the guy to hook up with girls, that does become easier. But that's that's so far off. I go, wait a second, that's miles away from groping or forcing.
Yeah.
You know, it still is. So,
and you're talking about consent. You're talking about things that may even many things that end up being regrettable and all that kind of stuff. But man, sexual assault and groping or rape is like one of the biggest. Honestly, it's the only thing that heats me up so bad that I question my belief against capital punishment. Like I'm against capital punishment, but when I hear about serial rapists and different things like that, I'm like, I have a difficult time sticking with the beliefs and the feelings that I have about taking it upon ourselves as a society to get rid of human beings. Like sexual assault and rape is the worst thing on earth to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I dude, like it's just such classlessness and it's such a shame, dude. And I do sadly to say, dude, you and I know a couple band folks that have that I'm fairly certain has been proven that have been a part of that kind of stuff, and I will not support them in any way. I'm not going to be friends with them. I'm not going to help them. In any way, dude. Like there are some gnarly folks out there, and I don't think they should get away with it by saying locker talk. You know why? Because the people that hide behind the locker talk thing are the reason that are the Brock Turner. Dude, when Brock Turner came out and all that kind of thing, the entire nation was outraged. Yet this happens with a political figure, or let's say it's somebody else. Like let's say it's some super beloved actor or something like that. How is the judgment towards that person different than the judgment towards Brock Turner? You know what I mean? It's the same. It's the same thing. This dude tried to say like, you know, well, she was passed out or she was drunk or she was a party or she, you know, he blamed her or something. Tried to hide behind something. It's total bullshit, man. It's the same game. And like, if you're outraged at Brock Turner, you should be outraged at sexual assault bragging. Yeah,
for sure. So, you know, I was just curious from your point of view, I'm wondering if it's a function of power. So I'm wondering, being the elbows you've rubbed with are wildly beyond the ones that I have. And I just wondered, have you seen, do you see more corruption or those kinds of things the higher up you go with more powerful people and bands that are the biggest of the big? I mean, you've been around. I mean, give me a quick brag sheet. Like who, not for people that are shitty or sexual assault, but you guys have been at the highest levels of being international rock stars, like for real. Like who have you been on tour with that's really big time?
Oh,
do you have a short brag list?
Well, sure. I feel, I mean, some of the most fun tours that we ever did with bigger bands, all came because they're these big giant status bands in their genre or whatever, and they end up just being regular dudes, and they're the nicest people on earth. Linkin Park, nicest people on earth, like good friends, treated us like royalty. Changed our, you know, Linkin Park was kind of like the standard for us. We were like, hey, man, if we're ever in the position to be looked at the way that we look at this band and the success of this band,
Uh-huh.
I hope people say the same things about us
That's
that we
cool.
said about Linkin Park and their hospitality and how they treated us. Those dudes are fantastic. POD, some of the closest friends we've had, like those dudes have reached out when we had some like strange things happen to us, and like reached out as friends and said, hey, is there something that we can do? I mean, bands don't do that. Even like good friendly bands that you go on tour with, that you love being on tour with, they don't reach out and say like, hey, we heard this bad thing happen to you. Can we help? Linkin Park has done that. POD has done that. The Hoobastank guys, great friends. That was all actually one tour, but I don't know, man. We've been on tour with so many bands and been friendly with so many bands because of multiple festivals. Shoot, let me
No,
let me
that's
go
all right.
back.
You don't have to go on and on, but I just wanted to give people a kind of a taste there of where you've been. I mean, it's been, it's just been it's been a big ride for you guys. You've done so much big stuff, and I'm curious what that feels like. What does that feel like now, having done so much stuff and then grinding it? Let's see. I feel like there's no way I can talk about it without saying like, oh, you're back to being small now. But that's not my point.
You can say it because I'm living it.
Okay, that's not my point.
I'm sleeping 4 hours a day, and I'm divorced, trying to like support a home and my kiddos, and I'm working literally like 5 to 6 jobs.
But to be a band for so long, I mean, and of course you had a peak of your career, which is just so high and so big, and then to still be able to stay together with your guys and do what you do and make crazy economical choices to forge forward and continue your career. I love that. I mean, I love it because it's kind of what I do on a smaller scale, but it's like, it's not that I'm hanging on to some dream of being a rock star or something like that. It's just, this is a cool ass gig. I love what I'm doing. And if I'm smart, I can continue to do this and grow other things and get into broadcasting or podcasting.
Yeah.
And guess what? My band sells more tickets and records now than it did a few years ago. And you guys have done that too. And a great example of that is, at some point, I can't even imagine the way you guys must have traveled and spent money and stuff like that. But then at another point, yes, this is a true story. Story of the year, rented Emery's tour bus and did a whole U.S. tour on our 1983 Greyhound converted bus, and you took Josh Head, our keyboard player, to drive and maintain the bus, and y'all just rode around in our bus for a month while we were off.
Josh did guitar tech, and then I ended up driving. I drove your bus for a fucking month, dude. I got real good at it too.
And I just love that. I don't really respect, on the other hand, the people say, I just wanted to go out on top and it's about my legacy. I don't think that makes any sense to me.
Dream. That's an old ass dream, dude.
Yeah.
And I got kids to feed. I don't give a shit about being cool. I really don't. I never have. Even my bandmates and I kind of clashed like back in the day when we were doing our second record, because it's like, oh, we want to do this because of that. And I was like, I don't give a shit. I really don't. I don't care about being cool. I haven't been able to worry about myself since I was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. That's when I became a father. I was a teenage father, and you're talking about getting started late. You're getting started when you should get started. I got started early. Yeah. Okay, and not by choice. And I've always had people to take care of, so I've never been my own priority. I've actually been I've been a father for more than half of my life now.
Crazy.
And that's all I know. I don't know what it's like to be 23 and in a band and not have to worry about a mortgage and insurance for your children and like the emergency room visit that happened last month and that kind of stuff. So when like bands are like, I wanted to go out on top or whatever, that's like an old dream. That's like the 70s dream or the 80s dream. You want to go out on top because you still got the fucking money in the bank to pay for the next 30 years of your life. That's cute. That's really lovely. But that's not how the 2000s worked. Our labels were paying exorbitant amounts to be on end caps at Best Buy before Best Buy stopped selling records, basically, before anybody stopped selling records. And at this point, man, this is an industry that has never been seen before. The 70s, 80s, 90s, we're products of the 80s and 90s, and saw the end of that whole 60s and 70s album, the actual album, come and go. And I've said this forever, dude. Musicians are it's a giant roller coaster. There's always been a need, there's always been X amount of need for politicians, X amount of need for people that are good with numbers, X amount of need for people that are great with their hands and can create and build houses and that kind of stuff. the need for musicians or people that are creators in this field has dramatically changed over the past 1,000 years. We were the jokers, we were the jesters that entertained royalty for millennia. And then just in this past 100, 200 years, it actually became a business because of technology allowing this person to make a sound that could be then amplified for 10,000 people to hear.
And people having the disposable time and income to spend a lot on entertainment too.
Totally, yes. So when entertainment became an actual business, that created a hole for musicians and writers and that kind of stuff to become these God-type celebrities, which is a completely new concept. And here we are again, where musicians are completely treated differently. And my buddies just did a music documentary where every single person they asked, except for one, was saying on the street, young folks said, "Yeah, music should be free. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Music should be free." So, guys, like, just grab the reality.
We're back
that
to
this
gypsies again.
Yeah, this is maybe not. I mean, maybe so, but we're back to being like completely, or maybe not even back to. This is like a first for this kind of thing, and for you and me.
Working class musician.
We're working class entertainers. I'm not even a musician.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm on the radio. I'm writing. I'm producing stuff. I'm trying to do.
You sell advertisements and book guests on your radio show. Right?
I'm selling mattresses, guys. Like, but I'm selling mattresses that I care about. But I'm an entertainer. You know what I mean? And you have to evolve, and you got to figure this out because this is a new business. And as depressing as it is for the '90s kids, you and I, that may have had a dream about doing this or making that or whatever, like. That's an old dream. So there is no dream. And I will say with complete honesty, and I thought this always was a bad thing, so I never really said this when I was asked certain questions about, what was your goal and your inspirations and who's your heroes and all that. I never really had a dream with this. I never had a dream to be a famous musician or whatever. I just really liked music, and I liked working really hard at it. And I knew that if I worked harder and harder and harder and got better and better, then I would be able to make more money and maybe get to the point where I could just do that. That wasn't a dream. That was just a goal. And I think that's kind of why Story did so well, is because we were just 5 dudes that loved playing music, that wanted to live in St. Louis for the rest of our lives and raise our families and bust ass doing what we loved and take it as far as it would go. And because this is a new business, the old business would say, okay, you hit your peak in 2004, and then now you're selling mattresses on the radio, and you got 4 bands. So obviously this is like the down piece of this, the bell curve, the scoop, the right part of the scoop. But dude, this is a complete new business. I might just write some dumbass joke that gets me a gig as a writer on an HBO special that then makes me famous. And then the movie that I worked on like 5 years ago, the script that I wrote up, I give it to the right person, and then I'm a famous director or some shit. Anything can happen if you're a talented, hardworking, good dude. And I'm not saying that only talented, hardworking, good dudes get results, because sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it's shitty people. Sometimes it's new people. Sometimes old people. Either way, this is a completely open field. There is no definition. There is no dream. There is no way to go. And the worst thing is when I guarantee you get this, and I don't know what your standard answer is, but what do you say when a new musician comes up and is like, dude, I'm 16 and I'm really badass at guitar and I love your band. How do I make it like you did? How do I make it? What do I do?
Well, that's confusing on one level, because it's like, a lot of times it seems like it's so easy to be so badass at guitar now. I feel like, oh my gosh, every kid can outplay me easily. Okay.
Center right now.
Yeah,
and there's kids that are
it didn't used to be that way. So here's the thing that people get tricked on a lot. They think the surface level, the material, and this transcends everything in culture, movies, anything in art is this way. It's not what the joke was. It's not what the guitar lick was. It's what it was for the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, when people are like, what did you do? Tell us your story. How did you get big? And I know that the motivation behind the question is to figure out some sort of angle as to how they're going to do their band.
But
or how
they
they're
want
gonna
to do
their
it the same, but it wouldn't work the same. And even if you wrote of course you can outplay me on guitar, and I'm not bragging about me or anything, but we were doing stuff that wasn't the right thing that you should be doing at that time. If you did that, replicated exactly what I did now, it would be, that's like what everybody does, and thus it's not leading or cutting edge or innovative. But what another way to say that is risky. Yeah. It's got to be risky. It's got to be out there, and it's got to be ahead of. And then later when you look back at it, once it catches on, it's going to be like, well, that's pedestrian. So you playing guitar better than me and writing a breakdown is completely pedestrian. And if you try to take the same approach to making whatever it is that you think we did back then, it's not the same now. Now the new thing is something I don't know what it is either. I don't know either.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't work that way. And the same way, like if you look at comedy movies, look at Blazing Saddles or something. Like look at the jokes, or look at, could somebody write an album that sounded exactly like the Beatles now? Of course they could. Would it be the biggest hit in the world? Of course it wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could make a Beatles ripoff. You could make stuff. You could make good musicians could make music that sounded like Beatles B-sides that were unreleased, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Probably, but it wouldn't matter because that was only for that time is why it worked, is because what they were doing was expanding and innovative and different, and also risky because 99 out of 100 are going to fail if you take a risky stance or move or position or style of music or jokes. It's not going to work out tons of time. So it takes people being out there, and a certain amount of it may work or may not work, right?
Yeah, dude. And the phases and the lines to pick or the pathways that are available, they change in a matter of weeks and months now. Whereas when we first started in the late '90s or whatever, it would change every couple of years. Mm-hmm. So you had a grace period to sort of practice and figure it out and get your market right, and then move to the next market and that kind of stuff. These when somebody says, what did you do? Because I want to do that. I want to have your success. I'm a St. Louis band. You're a St. Louis band. You're one of the few St. Louis bands, the biggest St. Louis band ever to come out as far as rock and roll out of St. Louis and grow out. How do I do it? And I go, you don't, because it's not 2002.
Yeah,
you don't do what we did. Like you can't. It's not the same. It's like asking a swimmer, like, yo, I'm about to run this marathon and I need to win this marathon, and you're asking a fucking swimmer how to do it. Like
it's a different thing.
Well, yeah. The swimmer got the gold medal in 2002. It's a different damn sport. That was a terrible analogy, but you know what I'm saying? It's a different sport.
I don't remember when I was, and this sounds maybe
which
silly.
Isn't bad, but
I could be wrong, but I come from a really small town, and there was nobody. Okay, the high school I grew up in, there weren't any other bands. They didn't even exist. I grew up really in the woods, and there was nobody even playing covers or local shows or nothing like that. And even when I was in college and there was some music, I never heard or encountered people that said, you know what, I want to be in a band. I want to try to make music my living. I want to follow my dream or whatever it is and do these things and go try to hit the road or tour.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was saying, but it wasn't, I'd never heard anybody say that before. Like, you know what I mean? And now everybody's asking, everybody everywhere all the time is saying, dude, music's my thing, it's my dream. I'm going to be on tour all the time and I'm going to make it work no matter what. I'm like, well,
that's weird, dude.
All I know to tell you is that's a much more pedestrian dream now. It isn't, it isn't. And thus you're going to have a proportional amount of difficulty to stand out, given that it's also everybody I meet's dream now, and it wasn't at all. That sounds like, oh, I'm the old man, and you can't.
No,
whatever. But it's. I'm saying we've progressed, so now new things. Wanting to be in a band now is not. I'm not so sure it's a great. It doesn't mean the same thing as it used to mean. I don't think.
No. I think the greatest bands or the bands that are getting the most attention right now are the best entrepreneurs. They're not necessarily the best bands, and now they may become the best bands. But here's the thing:
you're right. A certain amount of them will become the best bands. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Back in Black, AC/DC, Back in Black is their 7th studio album. 7. Most bands now, if you get to 7, like I'm shaking your hand, going, "Congratulations that you even bothered, making a 7th." album because it's probably shit, and you're probably got 7 jobs like I do.
Yep.
Like, story of the year. I just came from our story of the year. Like we were filming a video for a pledge campaign for not even our 7th record, but. Back in Black was the 7th record that AC/DC did. It's the 2nd highest selling record of all time, right behind Thriller. 7th record. Aerosmith, AC/DC, all these bands that did that. Even Michael Jackson had like 3 solo records before any of the ones that you've heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me. Now, that was how we developed artists back then. We developed them through, they were just singers, or Elvis didn't even write his own songs, guys. Like not a single one of them. I think. But like we developed acts and entertainers and singers and popular bands and brilliantly influential bands back in the day differently. These days, the only way that we're going to create longevity in these bands is pretty much if they start as something different than we know a band to be, or a young band to be. A young band was a bunch of idiots that like somebody was trying to help out and develop and blah, blah, blah. And it all just synced up and the timings worked and the artistry worked and blah, blah, blah. Now you got to have your own brand before a label will even bother with you, or before a manager will bother. You have to have built a business.
Yes.
So essentially you have to have entrepreneurial skills. You got to have songwriting skills. You got to have not just the chops. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have a lot of skills, because everybody can bullshit their way through a good record. But then when you play live and people go, oh my God, that guy can't even play. He can't even tune his guitar. Then like, you're out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a different model as far as like the first phases go of the bands that we're developing.
Absolutely.
And that's what the consumer has done. If that's not what we want, well, then we all fucked up. But that's what the consumer has created now.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's yeah, that's a scary thought in some ways. It's like politicians. Like there can't be a good one, because what you have to be to get that far is something you don't like. You know what I mean? It's not as pure as it once was. It's a different thing now. You have to be like Attila or something. You have to get the exposure. You have to say crazy stuff or be insane or who knows what. But I have unbelievable respect for bands that have 7 albums or longevity or been around for a decade plus. That's, to me, it's incredible. Maybe I'm biased because I'm trying to give myself a backhanded compliment there, but I love that. That to me is adaptive. And so when I think back to Story of the Year, renting Emery's tour bus for, I imagine it was $200 a night that you paid us, and we were 4 people probably in our band at that time. We got $50 a night to rent our tour bus out to you. And so you could have a $200 bus, and then just you drive it and get to the. And it's an '83 bus that we paid $10,000 for, and then put some plywood bunks in it, which you probably were sleeping in my bunk, And you guys had a microwave. I was doing more than just sleeping in your bunk. You know what I mean? And you guys left a microwave in there that we use to this day, because we didn't put a microwave in our own bus.
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
oh,
it's
bonus.
still in there. It's in there with those L brackets right there above the back seat there with that microwave that y'all put in there. So
where's that bus? Because I'm divorced. I just bought a house that I got to move into on Friday. I'm gonna need that back.
It's in Indianapolis. It's in Indianapolis. If you know.
Oh, it's not far, dude.
It's not far.
I'm just kidding. No, that was that. We were so thankful for that too. And again, like our band made the best of it. Like that's the difference between our band and a band that went from 2 giant ass H3 buses and a semi to your guys' 83 MCI or whatever it is. What is it? Is it MCI or Eagle or whatever?
MCI, you're right.
Yeah. Like we loved it. We were like, hey, this is
the best.
Yeah, it's a new adventure. It's fun. I got to get up at 6, kind of hungover, and drive the thing, because Josh. By the way,
let's just do that. Let's spend like
Josh
2 minutes.
sleeps for 15 hours a day. What the fuck, man?
People just don't understand. He's crazy, man. He's something else.
He is insane.
Well, give me your rundown on Josh from that point of view, because people know Josh in our band for being this or that, whatever. But I love it. I love it so much when somebody gets to know Josh, and then they report back to me like, see, that's Josh. I mean, he's such an interesting person. I'm so happy when somebody gets a really good point of view on him and then echoes back to me the thoughts that I've always had about Josh.
Wait a second. What does your fan base think of Josh? Well, who do they think he is?
So Josh is a couple of things. He is like so valuable on our stage show. He's so valuable to the fans. He is unbelievably out, and you would know this from the first time you probably went ever on tour with us. You're like, wow, this guy's outgoing. He's hanging out in our green room. room. He's making jokes constantly. He's the most extroverted. He's over. Those other guys are sitting in their room, but this guy Josh, he's here. He's hanging out with us constantly. And on stage, he's the same thing. He's the liaison to our fans. He goes to the merch table after the show. He is out there, man, and it is so valuable. And I love the guy. He's asleep every other minute of the day.
Yeah, dude. He's like conserving energy by sleeping throughout the entire day so he can be the Josh Head that everybody knows.
That's right.
What the fuck? It's the weirdest thing, dude. But I'll tell you, and I know everybody has probably a different nickname for a cat that looks like that. And I know he gets the Jim Caviezel Passion of the Christ Jesus thing all the time. He used to say that people would mistake him for
sure.
Caviezel after the Passion of the Christ came out. But dude, especially, we called him this years and years ago before his hair was crazy long. But I want to say on that tour when we took your bus and he went on the tour with us, we ended up calling him the Shaman. Now I don't remember, is that our nickname for him, or was that a nickname?
I think we went to Alaska. Right about that time, and we did some I don't remember what it was, but he started calling himself the Shaman right around that time. It was just a joking. I think it was right about that time he took the bus, and he referred to himself as the Shaman. But he looks like an ancient medicine man, and he's mysterious. Trust me, he is.
He is, dude, and he gives off the strangest vibe to people, which is always a good vibe. It's always like a smile vibe. Mm-hmm. He comes up to people. Now, dude, we were partying on your bus, we didn't have no tour manager. We didn't know, we did everything ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I was going to drive, and I'm super responsible. I got a CDL and all that kind of stuff. So everybody was like, it's party. Phil's going to get us there. Everything's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And dude, he would go out with us all night. And I mean, all night. And he's a great dancer. First of all, I don't know if you know that. I'm assuming
everybody knows that.
Yeah, he's a great dancer, and he's got 15 different dance moves in his pocket, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't know if it's game or what, but man, we took it to a whole new level. We were doing a 9-man game, and there was only 2 single people on our tour. He was single, and I think our guitar tech was or something. So the whole thing was a mission. And if it's a band that's all in relationships and whatever, and they're not about messing around or doing anything disrespectful, whatever. It's all about hooking up the single dudes. That's the goal. As soon as the show's over, it's all about hooking up the drum tech or something, So, dude, the Shaman was he was like the MC. He was like the circus MC. You know what I mean? He was the dude that would start it. We would all kind of put the attention on him, and it'd just be every dance. And we went to we went to dance clubs, and we turned every one of them into a freaking circus. And we would all end up with the focal point on Shaman, because all of us would ditch pretty early. Mm-hmm. And then Shaman would just be like, woo.
I'm so glad you got to have that experience with him and do that in the bus. And he's great with the bus and everything else, too. He built a lot of it, and he's a great driver. And I tell you what, though, there's nothing like driving that bus by yourself in the morning on the interstate clear. It's my favorite. It's literally my favorite, the most clear, smartest, clear thinking I ever have in my life is me in the front of that bus going down the interstate with a McDonald's coffee from 6 to 9 a.m. before anybody else gets up. I am a laser beam. My brain is the best my brain can operate. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Is to
Me too, dude. I was always in my pajamas. It was hot as hell in that cab, though. In that front, woo, heated up. But man, I loved that. I loved that. I would be out all night and only sleep for 3 hours and still love getting up, because I did love that solitude.
The authority of the rig, that you're the one in command of it. It's just a great feeling. The responsibility.
Exactly, dude. Mm-hmm. I love that. I thrive on that. Yeah. That's why I got a CDL in the first place. I was 21, and I was like, I'm going to go work for a special school district and drive school buses, because people are afraid to do that. And that's what I did. I like that. You and me, dude, kindred folk.
We're the same age, same everything. But I don't want to go long here. I got to get back in my family, and I want to keep this thing capped off. The only thing I might go a couple minutes over, but the only other thing that is criminal not to address, if you're going to talk about story of the year, is you guys play your instruments better than everybody else. That is not a joke. That is the real thing, because you got this deal with rock bands where they got these records and they do the pro tooling and they get everything's edited, whatever. When you guys play, it's just I don't want to ask a dumb question like how do you play so well, but I'm just making a statement that when you guys play your instruments, it is on a higher level than other live bands do. Everybody else gets away with being sloppy live because there's energy or whatever. But not only do you guys bring more energy, but you execute your pick on string, timing, tuning better than everybody else. And I think you know it. I don't want you to play false humble about it because every time I've seen you, you guys do this thing where you do a medley often. You've done more. I'm sure you've done tons of them. And you'll play, the first time you did a bunch of 80s medleys, you played Bon Jovi and a bunch of stuff like that. And the last time we saw you at this festival, you played a bunch of emo songs. You did Taking Back Sunday and The Used and an Anne Boleyn song or whatever. And you're just goofing around playing parts of these songs during your set. And I've toured with those bands and seen those bands live. Y'all do it better than they do every time. It's hilarious. And I know you know it, but it's hilarious to do. It's almost like you're just showing off or something. I know you're almost tributing those bands. I don't think you're making fun of them. Yeah. But it's it's effortless for you guys to execute those band songs, Dan singing, everything. It's like, holy shit, and I love it. It's incredible. So you guys deserve all the props in the world for your everything about your band, your execution, the way you treat other bands. It sounds like I'm fluffing you up, but it's the way I feel. It really is. I
can't stand up right now. I can't stand up. It's embarrassing.
But do you have any thoughts on that? On what it means to execute your music? What is there anything you would tell people about what it means to execute your timing and tuning and your playing at that high of a level live? Do you have any insight on that?
Dude, I've never. Well, firstly, I'm not playing false humble. Like, I'm extremely hypercritical. So the only thing that I hear on our shows is the mistakes, and like, we brought so much energy to the show and focused so much on the energy in our younger days, like the backflips and the guitar throws and all that.
That's usually the opposite of bands that play well. Oh, they do the backflips and sling their guitars around and it's sloppy, but they get away with it. But that's not the case with you guys.
Well, I mean, I know that we can play well if we're just standing still, but we've never stood still. So I've always thought that we're a little looser than some bands if you just strip the audio. 'Cause, I mean, listen, we've taken the audio a few times from shows and all I hear is mistakes. I'm just like, holy shit, how do people buy tickets? But I always think, oh yeah, I mean, like we're putting on a full blown show. It's all about the full all encompassed show, whatever. So hearing somebody and a musician that is badass and a better guitar player than me say that like we're good is very, very appreciated. I mean, I know that we're good because we care, but again, that's when we're like standing still. Now, I will say we were super late to the game with any sort of tracks or any of that crap. We still don't use any tracks, with the exception of like a couple like 808s and things like that, and things for intros, which is still on the super, super light end of things.
For what's going on today, for sure.
Yeah, but back in the day, like when everybody started doing that, we were like, no, we can't do that. We weren't even on a click. We didn't even play to a click until like 2 years ago. So because it's always us yelling, or at least me, because and the guys always think I'm the biggest dickhead and the downer, and they're always like, man, why can't you just have fun? And it's because every show I would always be like, man, you missed that downbeat. And it makes me look like an asshole. Like you got to hit that. And dude, when I'm doing harmonies, I'm singing to the bass. So if you mess up the bass, I can't sing to him. I can't sing to this. I'm singing to you. So quit fucking up. Like I mean, it was a lot of like criticism and that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate the compliment. That kind of makes me reevaluate my entire career with that band. Because we've always like dude, Ryan is one of the best guitar players I'll ever play with. But you get him drunk and having fun, and he's out there to have fun, not to show off, not to look like a great player. He's there to entertain, and like we're all there just to like have fun and entertain. And I think for us, we want to be good enough and as good as we can on our instruments. So when we go out to perform and to entertain, we're not worried about being good. We're only worried about giving people their money's worth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, mission accomplished. And I mean, and tell Dan and Josh and Ryan that I said hello and that I appreciate that too. So I probably have never gotten to explain to you guys or tell you what I've told you on this podcast even, but I'm glad I got to, and relay it to them when you see them.
Yeah, dude, will do, man. Hey, like we got to do this more often.
I know this is easy, right? We could do
way
it a long
too
time.
fast.
I really wanted to keep it tight tonight just because I got other stuff going, and I know you got to get
Yeah.
up super early. So I made
Dude,
a commitment that I wouldn't go much over an hour, and I think we're pretty much at that. But of course, you could come back. I'd love to have you on Bad Christian sometime. There's plenty to tell and talk about there that's different than this.
Absolutely,
if you'd
man.
like to do it, and good luck on morning radio at the Rizzuto, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Rizzuto, yeah.
Yeah, and so your Moon on Rizzuto show in St. Louis. So I really enjoyed talking. I could talk about broadcast and how that world works and the business part of it too. That'd be a whole nother thing to talk about is broadcasting and podcasting. But thank you for your time tonight, Phil. It's been great to catch up.
Man, thank you for having me on. I'm a big fan. I think, like I said, I think you're an intellectual dude. I have to admit though, when I listen to the podcast, I listen to all my podcasts on 1.5 speed.
Oh, you do?
So I'm so used to you like like talking so quickly.
I'm fast anyway. People say in real time at 1 speed, I'm fast. I think.
Yeah, you are quick, man. But no, I appreciate it, man. And from one busy dude to another, massive congratulations on the kiddo. And enjoy that because I don't know if this is your last one, but like my youngest is 6 and he's my last one, and I'm getting to I'm saying like the things that my parents did.
No way.
And going like, oh man, like this sucks. Like I love this age so much, and I'm not gonna have this again, and I'm gonna really miss it. So dude, I don't know if it's your last one or not, but cherish that even when you're not sleeping and you're just like, what am I doing as a dad. But yeah, man. Hey, everybody else, check out the new Story of the Year stuff that's coming out. We're about to do a pledge campaign. Greek Fire, my other band, has a whole bunch of new music that's about to hit. We just finished mixing. Goldfinger's actually, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. Goldfinger might be working on.
Pay attention to Goldfinger in the long-term future.
Yeah. And
tell
and
Mike I said, hey, when you do another gig with him, that sounds like it must be really fun.
I'll see him next weekend, dude.
Yeah, that's great.
See him next weekend.
And
man,
Riva, will you try to put a link in the description of all of Phil's projects and everything that he does and everything. So, yeah, good luck to you on all your jobs, and I'll ask everybody to support people like Phil and me. We're doing everything we can to make $1 and $5 and $1,000 sometimes. So pay attention. Greek Fire is awesome.
Because Matt and I got kids to feed,
right.
yo.
That's right. Guilt trip. I'm okay with the guilt trip part of it too.
Thanks, man. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Phil.